Welcome to the second episode of the American System of Economy podcast by the leading authority on the subject of American System of Political Economy, Neil Martin. Today we have a really good one for you. I hope everybody has fastened their seatbelts. This is going to be one for the history books, literally and figuratively. What Neil is going to be covering is a pivotal historical event, which I'm willing to bet, if you're in the audience listening to us, you've never heard of, but whose effect and the ramification of the effect of that event are shaped historical events, probably for the last 1.5 centuries or so. So we're talking about the 1881 Tariff Convention at the Cooper Institute. So this is going to be a two-part presentation. At the top of the presentation, Neil is going to cover the damn British, understanding how the British have always, and I'm talking past, present, unless we do something about it in the future, been the biggest instigators of war, chaos, geopolitical instability in the time of the writing, at the time of this convention, beyond the time of this convention, and up to the present day. So what Neil wants to identify is, if you want to understand how the British work, look at how they worked in the 19th century, look at how that transfers over into the early 20th century, and see where we are about 140 years after this pivotal event. So that's the first part. And then the second part, Neil will talk about how the American system is the antidote to the disease of the British system. So enough about me. I'm going to go off screen right now. Again, it's Neil Martin, 1881 Tariff Convention at Cooper Institute. Over to you, Neil. It's all yours.
Okay, Victor. You can go to the first slide. So this is on British economic textbooks. So you had American textbooks in the United States of America that was heavily free trade. So the students in universities and colleges, if they learn economics, most of them, a good portion of them, learned free trade. And a person that attended the convention, John Richardson, said something about it in his speech. He said, "I have already referred to the influence of early training and the study of what I call un-American textbooks on political economy upon the minds of Treasury officials, judges, juries, and especially on the youth of the country. I deem it of the utmost importance that the friends of protection in the country shall see to it that true American political economy textbooks shall be used in our public schools, our colleges, and all our seminaries of learning." Now, one might ask, why are you calling free trade un-American? Well, the American system of political economy, as led by Alexander Hamilton, was not for free trade. The United States of America was not supposed to be an agricultural economy like how Adam Smith wanted it to be, and Professor William Sumner of the late 1800s. They wanted the United States of America to be an agricultural economy. And how were they going to get the United States of America to fall in love with free trade? Put it in the textbooks. Students never question the textbooks at all whatsoever. The universities, the colleges, the schools don't do it at all, yet they don't do it. So this guy, John Richardson, I don't have any information on them because you're not going to find that much information on protectionists online because the historians want to whitewash history like they did with this convention. It's not covered at all. You go online, you type down the name 1881 National Tariff Convention, November 29th to the 30th. The book comes up and maybe a New York Times article comes up. Other than that, nothing comes up. But back to the issue, textbooks. Richardson is saying Americans should only have American system political economy textbooks. We do not need free trade. If we want to break the special relationship with the British, one of the things we're going to have to do is that these economic textbooks in the United States of America are going to have to dump monetary theory and free trade. You can go to the next slide, Victor. All right, the next slide is honorary Warren Miller. The tariff then is not alone for the benefit of the manufacturer. It is not alone for the benefit of the man who has the raw material to sell, but it is about also for the benefit of the working classes, and they composed by the farthest part of the people of this country. So Miller is stating that protectionism benefits the manufacturer, the raw material seller, and the laborer himself, right? So this is showing a harmony of interest. And what protectionism does, it helps out the manufacturer, that's a given. It helps out the seller of raw materials, and it helps out the laborer. Victor, can you go back to the slide? Yeah. All right. So they help out those three interests, and helping out those three interests, you promote the common defense, and you also promote the general welfare. The British system, on the other hand, wants to pit manufacturer against laborer, manufacturer against raw material seller. They don't want a harmony of interests. Next slide, Victor. All right, this is John B. Hart. John B. Hart was a congressman from 1881 to 1885, and I think his grandfather signed the Declaration of Independence. John B. Hart. Now, what does the cry of free trade mean? It means but one thing: wages on par with foreign wages. That won't do. The conditions are not equal. Shut the factory then. Blow out the furnace fires. And to working man, it says, go to farming. Who wants this state of affairs? England. Why? Because she would kill her American competitors in manufactured goods, raise her own prices there, drive us all to farming, create a glut of farm products, and then buy grain at her own price. But thank God we have here a government where the farmer, the mechanic, and the working man can settle this question for themselves. Now, what this is saying, he is saying the British want to kill American competitors in the field of manufacturing. How can anybody be for free trade when their sole intent is to get rid of American manufacturers? Kill it. That's what they want to do. They want to kill American manufacturers, right? But not only that, we're seeing ramifications of this. On what he's saying. He said the working man should go to farming. This is un-Hamiltonian and unconstitutional. Focus on the un-Hamiltonian part, because the report on manufacturing was not saying we're going to be a nation of agriculturalists. That wasn't the case. We were supposed to have an agro-industrial economy, and the British don't want to see that. What the British want to see, they want to see furnace fires being blown out, factories being shut down, and American wages on par with European wages. And that's not going to do. It's not going to help out the American population. So British free trade seeks to destroy American competition. They want to take over the markets in the United States of America. Why should we let the British take over our markets and destroy our labor force? That doesn't make any sense. Next slide, Victor. All right. This is Peter Cooper. Peter Cooper established the Cooper Union, which was a college. He was an industrialist, and he was also a protectionist. The free trade historians don't want to say that at all whatsoever. They completely whitewash on how Peter Cooper was a protectionist. If this doesn't sound like a protectionist, I don't know what a protectionist is, because he's going after the British. The War of the Revolution of our own country was brought on by a war of commercial interests. It was a war that showed a determination on the part of the mother country to keep her colonies entirely dependent on England for all forms of manufactured articles. Laws were enacted to prevent the colonies from manufacturing out of their own good raw material things indispensable for their own use and necessary to give employment to those who have nothing to sell but their own labor. So what's the first thing that Peter Cooper says? The American Revolution was fought for commercial interests, not taxation without representation, like stupid free traders do. Every historian who says the American Revolution was based off of taxation without representation is a post-Carnes free trader. They're a dumb, stupid, mundane free trader. They know nothing about economic history. Then we have the second part, right? The British want to keep the United States of America dependent on their manufacturing capabilities in England. So America will never be an agro-industrial economy. This picks up on what John Burehart was talking about. The people who teach American history do not talk about on how the British wanted to monopolize the domestic markets in the United States of America. The only thing the United States of America was supposed to do is grow agricultural goods and send raw materials to England. They were not supposed to be a manufacturing power. And these historians see nothing wrong with that. And the students fall for it. That's why we have to get rid of free trade textbooks, economic textbooks, and history textbooks in the United States of America. They need to be written from the American system perspective. That's going to be the ways in which we break this special relationship between England and the United States. Because to me, there is no relationship. England is Satan itself. Next slide, Victor. Next slide, Victor. The War of Revolution was a war of resistance to a war of commerce, then being forced by the mother country on the colonies. Our conquest of a country did not deliver us from the consummate power of highly educated British diplomatists, whose business it has always been to find the weak places in surrounding governments and so to control the legislation of those countries as to make them tributary to the wealth and power of Great Britain. This is the special relationship. This is what the British Empire calls the special relationship that it has with the United States of America. We're going to have our British ambassadors and diplomats get you all to have a legislature, both Democrat and Republican, that kisses the ass of the British. And we're still doing that till today. We have to end this special relationship between England and the United States of America. Look at what Peter Cooper is saying. Peter Cooper is saying that the British use their diplomats to manipulate politics in the United States of America for the United States of America to be a concubine of the British Empire. No history professor is going to say that. No presidential candidate's going to say that, because we have presidential candidates, Trump, Biden, or RFK Jr. They're not protectionists. They're soft on the British. Victor, you can go to the next slide. All right. What the British seek to do. All right, this next slide is very powerful. There is nothing in all history that admits of more complete demonstration that the fact that the wars of commercial interest carried on by England alone have led to and have caused a greater destruction of life and property during the last 80 years than has been occasioned by all the wars of conquest that have taken place in the civilized world during that period of time. Peter Cooper, who is not seen as a protectionist by historians who are probably free traders and who love the special relationship between the United States of America and Satan herself, the British Empire, right? He is saying all these commercial wars that the British have been in are the worst wars in the 19th century, from 1801 to 1881. What type of American historian is going to say that? They're not going to say stuff like that. What comes to mind when I think of the last 80 years, from 1881 to 1881, 2 opium wars. The British fought 2 opium wars to shove opium down the throat of the Chinese and humiliate them. Who could ever justify the opium wars? Who could justify the opium wars? I'm not sure, right? Peter Cooper knows about the opium wars. He's saying that England, for the past 80 years, had the worst commercial wars ever, right? From 1801 to 1881, right? To give a little bit of background about Peter Cooper, as I said, was an industrialist. He was heavily in favor of the greenback, right? What was the greenback? The greenback was the currency of the United States of America, the federal government. Peter Cooper didn't like banks printing their own currency. He wanted the United States of America to print their own currency, which in the Constitution, the powers of Congress states that. Peter Cooper in 1876 accepted the nomination to be the presidential candidate under the Greenback Party. He didn't win that election, right? But who covers Peter Cooper when he's running for president? These free trade historians that want a special relationship with the British. This 1881 National Tariff Convention is not in favor of keeping a special relationship with the British. Peter Cooper is already insinuating that. John Brewer Hart is already insinuating that too. All right, Victor, I'm done with part 1.
There you have it, guys. If you ever had any doubt that what you are seeing today, geopolitically, and just look behind me, from Ukraine to the situation in Southwest Asia with Hamas, if you ever had any doubt, number one, that these things are interconnected, and number two, that it's the British. The British, by British, we're being very, very specific. We're talking about the financial nexus between New York, we're talking Wall Street, we're talking the city of London, and the extended both economic and political influences across the Atlantic, the so-called transatlantic alliance, which is a geopolitical and economic alliance, which is now engaged in a confrontation with Russia in Ukraine, and is involved in what is probably one of the worst atrocities that mankind has ever witnessed being committed against the Palestinians and there's a whole story behind that. If you had any doubt, look at what the American system, political economy proponents were saying about the British back in 1881. Same thing, no difference. So you know exactly who you're dealing with, and how do you attack them? You outflank them. You outflank them. There's a better system, guys. There's a better system. And that was the point of the 1881 convention. That was the choice then. That's the choice now. So Neil is about to dive into part 2. And Neil is now going to talk about what's the alternative. What's the other system? It's not free trade. It's not globalization. It's not geopolitics. It's not survival of the fittest. It's not each in war against all. It's not Hobbes. It's not Malthusianism. What is it? Neil is about to dive into that. Over to you, Neil.
Okay. So the next guy we're going to talk about is Honorary George Loring. George Loring played a crucial part in the two tariff committee meetings that Peter Cooper hosted, one in 1881 and one in 1883, right? So we're going to talk about how box office is domestic consumption, right? Free trade never wants to talk about domestic consumption. It just wants to talk about foreign exchanges and foreign commerce. Here's what George Loring had to say. I have alluded to producing power of the producing power of the American people. But in order to understand the relations which exist between our industries, we should not forget our consuming capacity also. Of the 15 billion produced by our various industries, nearly 14 billion are consumed at home. It is the home market to which the American producer turns most naturally, let his industry be what it may. The market that the British wanted the most was the American market. And why did they want the American market so much? Because of the base of consumption and purchasing power that the United States of America had. If the United States of America is producing $15 billion worth of manufacturing product and consuming $14 billion of that, think of the domestic commerce that is going on. The domestic commerce must be huge, right? The United States of America, all that William McKinley spoke about. We're going to hear from William McKinley later on, but he has a speech, his May 18th, 1888 speech. He is saying American domestic commerce is bigger than the foreign commerce of Europe. The European nations, their foreign commerce cannot compete with American domestic commerce. And the special relationship with the United States and England says you don't need to concentrate on domestic commerce. Concentrate on foreign commerce. Concentrate on imported manufactured products from the workshop of the world, England. Pure baloney. Just outright pure baloney. The United States of America has the best home market. It had the best home market for the most part of the 19th century. But no historian's going to say that. No free trade economist is going to say that. But I'm going to say it because I'm the authority on the American system of political economy for the 19th century. All right, Victor, you can go on to the next slide. Okay, this is William D. Kelly. And if we ever have a national tariff convention, we have to bring up the name of the greatest protectionist ever in the 19th century, Henry C. Carey. This is William D. Kelly. My dear old friend and teacher, Henry C. Carey, regarded the amount of iron consumed per capita as a fair test of the scale of civilization prevalent among a people. He thought that the consumption of crude sulfur, could it be ascertained, might be accepted as yet more accurate test, and I do not hesitate to assert that the amount of alcohol consumed otherwise than as a beverage may be regarded as a test of a people's progress in the application of science to industry. Okay, so we're going to concentrate on the first part of the text, right? He's saying that Henry Carey says you can judge the prosperity of civilization of a country by how much iron it consumes per capita, right? Today and back in the 19th century, the free traders said, judge your economy based off of your foreign commerce. Now they say, base your economy off of your stock market, monetary theory, just pure garbage. They have thrown out the physical economy. What is the main purpose in the 19th century? What was the main purpose of iron in the 19th century? To produce steel. What was produced a whole lot out of steel? Railroads. The United States of America had the most miles of track in the 1880s, and it went on for several decades, right? And that was all because of a protective tariff that the free traders don't want to talk about. The free traders don't want to see a country consuming natural resources and having a productive economy, a productive physical economy, right? And this productive physical economy that Henry Carey's talking about and that William D. Kelly is talking about, right? The British doesn't want the United States of America to think that way. And how have the British had the United States of America not think that way? Not think that you base an economy off of your physical production and consumption. By inundating the culture and the universities with free trade propaganda. I am sorry. We have to get rid of this special relationship between the United States of America and England. The only way the United States of America is going to join the BRICS and join the Belt and Road Initiative is that it has to destroy, annihilate, and totally get rid of this special relationship, because this special relationship is killing the United States of America. It is not only killing the United States of America, it has the United States of America and NATO walking into thermonuclear war. All because we want to be concubines of the British. We have to get rid of the British system. The special relationship between the United States of America and England has to end. And the only people who are going to do that are protectionists. Nobody else is going to do that. Donald Trump is not going to do that. Robert F. Kennedy is not going to do that. And Sleepy Joe's not going to do that. You can go on to the next slide, Victor. Okay, domestic competition beats foreign monopoly. So this guy, Stockton Bates, I have no information on him, but what he says is pretty powerful about domestic competition and foreign monopoly. All experience shows that there is no domestic monopoly so greedy as a foreign monopoly, and that nothing but domestic competition can prevent it. Further, that there is no road to permanent cheapness so sure as the encouragement by protective duties, under which this same domestic competition is sure to spring up. Protection then does not mean higher prices, but it does mean steady employment at fair wages to American mechanics, plentiful and cheap markets, development of resources, success, comfort, and happiness. All right. So Stockton Bates is saying, you guys like talking about domestic monopolies. You guys like talking about domestic monopolies. Why don't you talk about foreign monopolies? How come the British are never seen as a monopoly? They're just seen as a country that has a special relationship with the United States of America and other foreign powers, right? Stockton Bates is also saying that domestic competition can beat foreign monopoly. These free traders talking about, yes, we need foreign competition to bring down the prices of goods. What about domestic competition? Oh, we don't want domestic competition. That's a monopoly. Ask the question. You want the United States of America to be in a special relationship with England, right? What has that cost us? It has cost the United States of America to no longer have a good footing with the global South. How could any country in the global South or China and Russia trust the United States of America? We have been going along with British foreign policy and British economic policy. British economic policy reigns in universities and colleges in the United States of America. You would not see an economic professor giving a presentation on the 1881 National Tariff Convention hosted by the Peter Cooper Union. You will never see that. But right now you're seeing it because you have an audience with someone who knows the American system of political economy. And because I know the American system of political economy, I have to give back. I have to honor the past, honor the present, and honor the future. I have obligations. And those obligations is to make sure that the United States of America once again becomes the beacon of hope and temple of liberty. We have to go back to the Constitution. We have to go back to saying that protective duties are the way to go. The American system, LaRouche's 4 economic laws, has to become a policy. We have to get rid of this special relationship between the British and the United States of America. Once we get rid of that, people will tear down these free trade arguments that are just pure sophistry. Okay, Victor, next slide. This is a goodie. This is Joseph Sheldon. I don't know nothing about him. He just gives a nice speech. It is said, if free trade between Maine and Georgia is good, why is it not equally good between Canada and Georgia? That's what a free trader is saying. This objection is commonly stated with a certain air, as if the whole question was crammed into a nutshell and the absurdity of protection would at once appear. Okay, this is a small quote, but it's very powerful. What this free trader is stating is that there's no difference between trade between Maine and Georgia and Canada. Hello, have you heard of a sovereign nation state? Have you heard the difference between domestic commerce and foreign commerce? Oh, If you're a free trader like that jabroni Henry George, you are not going to see Maine and Georgia trading as good, but you're going to say we don't need domestic exchanges between Georgia and Maine. Why not have domestic exchanges between Canada and Georgia, Georgia and England? We are a nation state. We take care of our own. There is no such thing as this one world government. We are not going to have a one world government. We're going to have sovereign nation states, right? And the whole point of a sovereign nation state is to foster domestic commerce. There is no domestic commerce between Canada and Georgia. It's not nation states. Free traders deliberately always want to destroy the sovereign nation state. That's all they want to do. And what's the purpose of the special relationship between the British and America? Destroy the nation state. Don't trust any British politician coming over to the United States of America. If a British politician comes over to the United States of America, send them back. Don't allow for their plane to land. Let it go land in Canada for all I care, right? But we should cut off relations with the British and say, we no longer have a special relationship with you. You want Wall Street? We're going to kick out every member of Wall Street and send them to England. You can have the Congress too. You can have the president. You can have economic professors. We'll send them to England. We want the American system of political economy again. All right, next slide, Victor. All right. England is not Satan's only begotten son. She is Satan. So the British, it's not the son of the devil. She is Satan herself. And this is John Roach talking about monopoly. And he's saying, you want to talk about monopoly? All right, let's see what he says. Who then had the monopoly? No one then heard about this great monopoly when we were sending the gold out of the country, giving employment to foreign labor and allowing our own labor to go idle. Was this policy in the interest of this country or of England? We never hear of monopoly in this country until we began to supply our wants and cease buying in England. This is what a policy of protection has done for us in regard to steel rails. All right. So John Roach, a brilliant economist, is saying, you want to talk about the United States of America having a monopoly? But when we with our special interest relationship with England allows for the British to send over manufactured goods and have our own citizens idle, the labor force idle, and the economy not organized, you don't see anything wrong with that? You don't want to call what the British have a workshop? If someone says a workshop is not a monopoly, they should be slapped silly, because that don't make any sense at all, right? So he is saying, okay, so whenever we pass a tariff legislation and we start producing and our domestic commerce grows, you British political economists, you American political economists and professors in universities, you sophist politicians, you want to say that because the United States of America has a gigantic domestic commerce, we have a monopoly, and the British are concerned? The British are not concerned about the United States of America. The British want to destroy the United States of America, and she's doing a pretty good job in destroying the United States of America. The United States of America needs to end the special relationship with the British. And the only way we're going to do that is we're going to say, you know what, England, we don't have a monopoly. We're looking after the general welfare. Every time we develop our economy and our economy prospers, you want to say, oh no, that's a monopoly. America has all these industries. It's a monopoly. They need free trade. We do not need free trade. We need the American system of political economy. We do not need monopolies. We don't need the British in our affairs at all whatsoever. If they want to act like humans, we'll treat them like humans. But the present British government, the British Empire, should be rejected by every single country on earth. And if countries don't want to reject the British Empire, they're concubines. So, the British, right? The British favorite word when they hear that some country has, the British favorite word when they hear some country has a nice economy, an economy that is progressing. Back in the 19th century, they will say, look at that country. It has various monopolies. We have to break that down in the name of democracy. That's foolish. The only people who buy the British actually caring about countries are people that cherish the special relationship with the British and the United States of America. Once again, I state we have to end this special relationship. And how does that special relationship get severed? The United States of America going back with the American system of political economy. And the best way to do that is to implement LaRouche's 4 economic laws. Return to Glass-Steagall. Return to Hamiltonian national banking. Use credit to build up the productive and physical economy. Last but not least, enter the nuclear age. Develop fusion power. And be fully committed to the manned space program. That's what we need to do. If we do that, this will show that we are no longer concubines of the British. Next slide show, Victor. Okay, this is by box office William McKinley. Now, William McKinley was the best protectionist congressman of his time. It is natural in its purposes, its blessings and its benefits. He's talking about protection. It has given life and permanence to the great manufacturers of the United States, which are our pride and glory. And they in turn have furnished a good and convenient market for the products of the farmer, while under its operation has found ready and profitable employment. There is no section or true American interest that does not share in its beneficence and feel the life-giving force of its influence. Labor, which forms the basis of all true wealth, is most perceptibly benefited by a wise protective system. So what William McKinley's talking about, he's talking about protectionism and how it benefits the American economy, right? And what I want to focus on, right, is that he calls the great manufacturers of the United States our pride and glory. The British don't want to see that happen. The British always wanted the United States of America to be an agricultural economy and also send them raw materials. The British had a policy which explicitly stated, you can see it in Henry Carey's book. In Henry Carey's book, Principles of Social Science, Volume 1. You can see it in John Lord Hayes's book, pamphlet, American Textile Machinery, where there's a group of laws that the British were passing in the 1700s, not allowing for certain manufactured articles or machinery or parts of machinery to be exported to Europe or to the United States. The British never wanted the United States of America to develop, right? So if the British never wanted the United States of America to develop, what's the other side, right? So we have a side that wants to act like a concubine of the British and prolong this special relationship. Well, we have another side, the true American interest. Get rid of Wall Street. Wall Street does not represent the true American interest. Get rid of the environmentalist movement. It does not represent true American interests. Get rid of the Great Reset. We're not having that, right? The true American interest. What's the true American interest? The true American interest is for the United States of America to implement LaRouche's 4 economic laws. It's also for the United States of America to join the BRICS. And it's also for the United States of America to join the Belt and Road Initiative. This is what protectionist thinking leads to, right? So when you're talking about protectionism, right, you got to talk about protectionist thought, American system thought. Who best summed up American system thought? Lyndon LaRouche. This is the guy that taught me political economy. This is the guy that had me study Hamilton, Frederick List, Alexander Hamilton, Henry C. Carey, Matthew Carey. I studied them because of Lynn, and I studied other political economists. And I looked at the whole 19th century, just reading books and pamphlets. And I always came upon gems, right? This 1881 Tariff Convention was very important for the United States of America because we did have a tariff convention, and the tariff convention was headed by John Lord Hayes, the second best political economist of the second half of the 19th century. He's only behind Henry C. Carey, right? So the main point of this class is, sure, I spoke about the 1881 National Convention, but the special relationship between England and the United States of America has to end. We end this special relationship between England and the United States of America, thermonuclear war is not a possibility. In order to escape thermonuclear war, in order to escape the clutches of the British Empire, we have to get rid of this special relationship. And that's the end of the class. Thanks, Victor.
There you heard it from the man, the world's leading authority on the subject of the American system of political economy. You heard it from the best. Thank you so much, Neil. Once again, as Neil stated, the goal is to create an army of individuals out there, well-educated, and you can be one of them. That's your choice. Well-educated, not just reacting, not just following instincts, not just following the mob, not just venting emotion, but well-educated. You understand what the historical conflicts have been, what the historical conflicts are, what are those key events that are shaping the dynamics of the historical juncture that we found ourselves in. What are those opportunities? As the Chinese always say, crisis. The word for crisis, or the word for crisis in Chinese is the same word for opportunity. So the crisis, the Chinese have it right. In every crisis, there's an opportunity. Where's the opportunity? We think the opportunity is restoring what once, in the hands of Abraham Lincoln, in the hands of Franklin D. Roosevelt, in the hands of JFK, became the counterweight to all of those forces around the world who believed in national sovereignty, who believed in the sacrosanct sense of national sovereignty, and were fighting for true economic freedom. They understood it then. We need an army of well-educated people like you that understand this. So what's a challenge to you? Educate yourself. So we're going to set up the websites. We're going to make the books available. We're asking you set up the reading clubs. Challenge yourself. What's the difference between Henry C. Carey and Karl Marx? What's the difference between the principles of social science and Das Kapital? What were the fundamental concepts on monetarism, on Malthusianism? How does that impact economic policy today? How did it impact economic policy at the turn of the 20th century? So there's more to come. We hope you join us for next episode. It will be announced. We'll let you know. Looking forward to working with you and taking this journey with you. See you next time.